So, what the hell is going on at Michigan? Here is the synopsis.
Good question.
There's an investigation currently underway as to whether or not a Michigan staffer, a guy by the name of Connor Stalions,
Good name.
Very good name.
Yeah.
By extension, the coaching staff violated a rule around in-person scouting. The NCAA has banned it, mostly because of budgetary reasons. Not everybody has the travel budget, right? To send people.
It's been around since I think the 90s that the rule has existed because it seems, you're right, a travel reason, a resource reason, that it's costly to scout a bunch of teams all of the time.
Right. So the allegations here are that Mr. Stalions was either going to or arranging for others to go to games around the country, not just Big Ten games, right? Basically to record signals on mobile phones. And there have been pictures that have popped up on message boards and all sorts of stories now. Of course, this is a college football thing, so it has ballooned somewhat out of control. But in effect, sending people to games, recording on a mobile phone, the sidelines throughout the course of the game, presumably then feeding them back to him or somebody on the staff so that they could decode them.
Stabs, I believe, is the word you were looking for.
Stabs,
yeah.
Thank you. So they could decode them.
Yeah.
And so when it comes time to play a particular opponent, they've got some info as to what plays they might be calling. Many videos making the rounds on social media of this guy, Connor Stalions, being on the sidelines, pointing to the sky in a Michigan-Ohio State game.
Well, it was pointing to the sky with a number of other players and coaches and staffers on the sideline, indicating to the Michigan defense after a look, hurry up and look at me kind of moment for Ohio State, getting a hand signal in to adjust to play, and Michigan immediately decoding said play.
Decoding said play. So there are many, many, many opinions on this. For my money, I've told this to you and many others. This is the perfect college football story. Right. It really just brings together all the things that we like about college football, whether it's message boards or crazy rumors or a fiery rivalry with Michigan, Ohio State, really all the things kind of packed together into one nice little package. I have many thoughts on this as a former sign stealer myself.
As a safety, a middle linebacker, a Big Ten middle linebacker? Is that where you were?
As a backup infielder my junior year while I waited behind the coach's kid on the varsity baseball team.
Yeah.
So I have clearly qualified thoughts. Where are you at?
Obviously. Where am I at? Okay. I love the story, just like you do, especially because now there are rumors swirling. It was an inside leak to, Pete Thamel was the one who I think was the biggest newsbreaker in this situation. And he was the one who was able to identify a name and identify sort of the architecture of the scheme and, sending people out with phones to different games. And now you're seeing reports, it's essentially coast to coast. And we saw Andy Staples bring up, I think it was VolQuest, the Tennessee message board, that had a poster way back in December saying that he knew or she knew somebody that was hired by Michigan to go to Tennessee games to shoot hand signals with a phone. And so it is, one, seemingly pretty elaborate, right? Two, it is the only current full-on operation on this scale that we know of. And I'm positive Michigan fans to the person are saying everybody does it. It's going to blow over. And I've seen some takes where it's like, well, look, the hand signals are out in the open for anybody to see. And also true. And also true that in every single game, everybody's trying to decode signals live to pull a tie, as all of the college football coaches have been saying in their press conferences. I guess that would be in reference to you getting Munson out in the middle of backup infielderdom.
That's right.
But the conclusion that I've come to is, like, obviously Michigan is trying to decipher in the way that everybody's trying to decipher, but the operation status, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me upset. I appreciate when teams look for an edge in every single possible way because there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of pride on the line. There's a lot of everything on the line with major college football. But there is also that element, and I don't mean to sit on the fence here because ultimately I guess I'm going to come to a conclusion, but there is that element here where it feels kind of competitively antithetical, where like everybody hopes, every fan hopes that like their coaches are, you know, deep in the film room, coming up with the perfect scheme, teaching it to the players, practicing it with the players, and they're just better at preparing in an organic way than the other team is. And so if there's any sort of doubt cast upon your team's ability to win mano a mano, head up, you bring your best dudes, we bring our best dudes, we game plan, you game plan, let's see who wins. If there's any doubt cast on that ability, it's kind of a shame to be a Michigan fan, right? That like now everybody's going to look at it. So if we're going to cast doubt on Michigan's ability to play mano a mano, even if this is common, this is the only operation we have evidence of and know of in this moment. So for that, I think it's a loss for college football and a loss for Michigan. And so I'm fully prepared for more evidence of more operations to come out. I can't wait to find out if it was an inside job, if it was, you know,
man, that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I'm waiting for.
You know, an anti-Harbaugh person within the administration or a former coach. You know, we've had some coaches leave in murky circumstances and with reported bad blood. I can't wait to find out more information about this story. But yeah, I think it's at absolute best a pretty terrible look for Michigan the more they win.
Well, all right. So the rule in question is around in-person scouting, and they banned it for budgetary reasons. For all intents and purposes, it's kind of unenforceable. Unless you're really careless, it's pretty much unenforceable. So it doesn't bother me that Michigan tried. It wouldn't surprise me if other schools around the country are also trying.
Yeah.
When you say elaborate, though, I recoil a little bit because this wasn't elaborate. A bank heist is elaborate.
Right. Well, and this is not Michigan bugging, you know, rooms within the facility. This is not Michigan, you know, setting up secret cameras within an indoor practice facility. Right. It's not that level.
It was elaborate to the extent that it was somewhat thorough, and they were going to Tennessee games, Oregon games, whatever games to try and make sure that they were complete and that they had everybody kind of
all their bases
charted.
Covered. Yeah.
Right. All the bases covered. Thank you. So to that end, I don't blame Michigan for trying, especially if the rule is unenforceable. It would surprise me if it's not something going on elsewhere around college football. As you said, the real kicker is how the guy get caught, right? He was using his real name to buy tickets. That probably confirmed it, but ultimately they're not catching the guy unless somebody tips off the authorities. That's the story I want to read. That's what I'm very, very curious about.
Yeah. I think there have definitely been instances within this sport, though, that I've talked about it. I think it was 2 years ago when I've mentioned this again with Brent Venables, who has this reputation. And we've seen what has happened since Clemson lost Brent Venables. And I think it was the Pitt game where they went up 31-0 in the blink of like a quick toilet run. And I think it can make a significant difference.
Well, and that's my next point, because I've seen a lot of hand waving out there regarding the competitive advantage of this.
Yeah.
A lot of, oh, well, like knowing the signals is one thing, but then stopping the play is another. And that's very true. There is no doubt about that. Like the video that we referenced earlier going around on social media, the Michigan sidelines, everybody's pointing up, and Ohio State scored a touchdown on that play. It didn't stop it. So a lot of folks are like, see, it didn't matter anyway. And let me harken back to the baseball sign stealing days if I could.
Yeah.
All right. If you know a guy is stealing, there's no guarantee, especially in the high school ranks, that you're going to throw him out.
The catcher's good enough to throw him out, yeah.
There's no guarantee. But what it does give you is a little bit more information, and you know not to throw a curveball. Right. Or if the guy's going to bunt, you know to throw a high fastball, make it harder to do so. It is not always about getting it exactly right. It is about having a little bit more information to give you something of an edge. So in football sense, maybe it means you're not playing a run when you know a pass is coming. You don't know what pass is coming.
You see James Franklin talk about this?
I did, yeah.
Where he would talk about they would have a shot play called on a short yardage situation that he would consider to be unpredictable. Whole different conversation about James Franklin's ability to...
Whole different thing.
But yes, the coaches that have commented on it have very specifically said it is meaningful.
It is meaningful. It does offer more information. And I think in that offers something of an advantage. That is not to say that you are getting it 100% right all of the time.
Right.
But football is decided by moments. It is decided by these key plays, these big explosion plays, turnovers. Having a little bit of extra information can give you that edge. And so in that sense, yeah, I think it does offer something of an advantage, but everybody is trying to decode them in real time. And that's sort of the other point, because I've seen a lot of folks chime in with, well, then, like, if they knew it was happening, if it was common knowledge, why didn't they just change the signals? Do you think this guy is going to be on the sidelines just hanging out if his play sheet doesn't work? Right. Do you think he's not good enough to just sort of look on the other side and figure out what the new ones are after a quarter?
By the way, he was standing like 4 feet away from Jesse Minter and Jim Harbaugh.
So I think it's foolish to assume that just because this guy was there and he had this operation going on the side, that he is also not good. I'm assuming he's getting the videos and figuring out the signs. If he knows what the signs aren't, it should make it easier to figure out in the game what they are. So I just think that, like, he's not hacking the matrix. I think he's probably good enough to be the sign stealer, whether it's from video, whether it's on the sidelines in game, which, by the way, isn't really that illegal, and everybody kind of does it.
I weirdly, by the way, fully believe Jim Harbaugh had no concept that it was happening. I fully believe that in an operation this widespread, that there would be like a very keen focus on plausible deniability. And I think that was in the Tennessee message board post, whatever credibility you want to give that like Harbaugh had no concept it was happening.
That's fine, but the rule, the way it is written, presumes that he knows.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And so
control over a program.
Whether or not Jim Harbaugh did or didn't know is almost irrelevant, because it's against the rules. That they find that this thing was happening within his program, then he's going to be on the hook for it. And that's where I think things are right now. Like, we are waiting to have more reporting out there from Pete Thamel and others, and message board geniuses on Twitter and folks on Reddit who, you know, obviously care about this stuff a great deal. More and more information is going to trickle out. And at some point, the Big Ten is going to decide it wants its pound of flesh. And when that happens, I think all bets are off, because that's when this story goes to an entirely different stratosphere. There's already been smoke around, well, maybe the Big Ten will ban them from the postseason.
No. First of all, I think you have 90 days to respond to a notice of allegations, right? Something like that.
Well, but that's from the NCAA. This is
right
on the conference
on the Big Ten level. Sure.
On the conference level, something that can be enacted much quicker. I just feel like that is where the story is going next. Tony Petitti, the new commissioner for the Big Ten, has a certain amount of exclusive authority that he can exercise if he decides that, you know, these rules have been violated in a way that violates competitive balance and integrity of the game, the sanctity and all that stuff. So I think that's where this is going next, and we will obviously talk about it when it gets there. But this is still very early days, and I suspect that the more information that comes out, if we start seeing videos, if we like, the Big Ten is going to feel compelled to do something, whether you agree with that or not. And that's when this is going to get truly controversial. What we're seeing now is fun and games, but once they start trying to actually enact punishment,
right,
this is going to go haywire.
So, okay, my final thought in terms of punishment is the Big Ten is, whatever the NCAA does eventually, who knows? When the Big Ten is going to look at discipline or no discipline or whatever in this situation, one, the rule is in a gray area. The rule does not stipulate scouting by using phones or other technology in the way I believe, and maybe you know better than I, with baseball, right? With the Houston Astros and stuff, there are like specific things that are outlined in terms of recording devices, and I don't believe that's outlined in like the 90s rule that was written down, because the concept of having a tiny little video camera when people were wearing backpacks with batteries in 1993 or whatever, it's just completely unthinkable. So the Big Ten, run by a TV executive, just having signed a new deal, is not going to suddenly want less Michigan in competitive spaces. And so, yeah, perhaps there will be a punishment, maybe some scholarships here and there, maybe something docked. I do not think, you know, maybe there's another suspension for Harbaugh or some sort of slap on the wrist. It's just not the reality in which we live when television is running the sport, that they're going to take away one of the biggest actors in the country from your sitcom. Not going to happen.